to cause me to uproot myself and reapply everything and submit everything. So I go ahead and refinance with the Singapore local bank. Now, but the moment I did that, you know what happened? My estate agent actually contacted me and said, hey, are you interested? And they start to shower me with a lot of offers from all the different banks. So I began to share with this customer officer from the local bank. I'll just call her the local bank officer. And hey, these offers are there, you know, because I activated, but the offer has not come to me. I'm not signed on the contract yet. So I began to tell her, oh, there are all these offers out there, you know. And her response is always very slow, right? So 3-4 days, they will come back. And 3-4 days, I ask a question, 3-4 days, they will come back. And one of these particularly good offers was actually from a Malaysian bank, right? And I started to talk to my agent passed me on to the banker, and the banker gave me a handphone, which is an office handphone, and I can WhatsApp her, ask question, and the reply came back immediately, right? And so I'm in a rush, right? Because my lock-in period is going to be over soon. It's early May, and so I told the local bank, I say, I'm going to go with this unless you're going to do anything. Yeah. You know, when I share with her some of these offers, right, there was one point in time, because the offer was over, she said, can you prove to me you have got such an offer? I said, huh? You want me, a loyal customer, to go to your competitor, send in all the documents, and then get an offer and show you? And what are you going to do for me? You're probably just going to match that, right? And then she said, oh, sorry, we want to keep you as a customer. It's not like anything. But I begin to feel as though I'm an irritation to her. She's probably very busy. Local banks are overwhelmed with people asking for postponing on premium. I probably can understand, right? And at home, she probably have to handle her kids as well, right? If it's young kids, right? And so, but she was very busy and overwhelmed, and the response was very slow. So I go ahead with the Malaysian bank. I already get my offer that night. She WhatsApp me and say that, oh, your bank loan has been approved. Tomorrow I'll send you all the documents. But that morning, the local banker called me. Oh, and this is the offer. So, well, it's not as good as the Malaysian bank for the first year. But finally, we decided to go with the local bank. And the reason is because I can do the refinancings like within a month versus, let's say, 3 months or maybe even longer if I go with another new bank. So, but then my wife and I say we have such a bad experience, I'm not sure if I want to do that again. And on the final offer, the bank officer actually told us, you know, actually our offer documents are all ready, but you asked for float and you asked for fixed and you asked for this. In the end, if this offer you cannot take it, maybe you let us go lah. The bank officer actually said that, and I feel really bad. Okay, I feel really bad. Yeah. So sometimes, right? Well, we don't forget what they make us feel, right? Yeah. So no fault of hers. Probably she was overwhelmed, but I got a pretty bad experience, right? Okay. Another one of my experiences was actually I need to cancel a trip to Japan. This was a group of friends, about 6 of us, very, very different families. We finally managed to arrange something to go in March to Japan, and sort of like a free and easy trip, right? And the ticket thing is complicated because everybody buy at different time because they cannot confirm. So a few of them buy at like close to a year ago, right? And then a few of them only can make it like last year and they joined. And I was the last one because I filled in for somebody that couldn't make it, right? So my ticket was the most expensive. So we were thinking whether to cancel, go. Finally decided to cancel, right? Okay. So we went to Ion, right? Okay. It was the period in March, right? So not so crowded yet. So we waited like for about 20 minutes and the lady down there listened very intently and carefully to everything that we said because our case was so complicated, this one, all the different periods and so on. And then finally, she tell us what we can do, what she cannot do for us, what is the policy. If MFA say cannot fly to Japan, I cannot cancel your trip and refund you. Then she say, okay, the best thing to do, so she advised us, is to cancel the ticket, keep it open. She will extend the open ticket for a while, and then hopefully this pass, then that's what we can do. We didn't get the refund. We can't get a refund, right? Okay, but it was very nice. She listened to us and give us good advice, right? Things that she can do, cannot do, she tell us very frankly, right? So the experience actually was pretty good, yeah? Even though I have to cancel the trip, So later on, when finally we are not allowed to go to Japan, they actually allow us to refund. So I applied for a refund, but it's going to take 4 months, right? And haven't come yet, my refund. But the customer, even though I didn't get what I want, didn't get what we want, and we were worried and so on, we find that we will listen, right? Intently, and our anxieties or those were addressed. Okay, so pretty good experience, as I pretty proud of them. Yeah, but the travel insurance is another big problem, right? So some of my travel party, they bought from NTUC Income. Wow, almost immediately they get a refund. Very quickly they got a refund. The rest of us got from other companies, right? So like mine, my wife bought a one with quite good coverage. The features are really good. So the product quality and the features are actually good, and the pricing is pretty reasonable. But when we come to ask for the refund, so I try to appeal, right? Oh, in this kind of situation, can you refund everything? And then she said, quote a clause. So the reply was from email, quote a clause that says that they have to deduct $50. No discussion. Stop, full stop, right? I'm a bit disappointed. Yeah, so anyway, but that's what they can do for me. But 1 month later, I got an email say, surprise, we actually refund you everything. So I was just thinking, how could this customer have handled the interaction better, right? Maybe she should have said, I will put it up, but I'm not sure it will be approved, instead of quoting the legal clause to the customer and then basically telling the customer straight away no. And even if you say, I'm going to put it up, but I'm not sure it's going to happen, if it can't happen, I know you have done your best, and I probably can understand, right? Because companies are bleeding during this period as well. Okay, so these are some of the interactions. So what are some of the takeaways, right? First of all, we need to understand our customers, right? Not just what they are asking for, but what are they anxious about? I got some friends they have 2 children that were stuck in parts of Europe, and they're trying to come back, and every day they're looking for a flight, What kind of anxiety are they facing? Do we understand that? Do we understand why are they asking for this? Then basically, if we know that, then basically it's not just meeting their demands, but also trying to address their concerns, giving them some certainty and some clarity of what they can do, what they can wait for, and so on and so forth. So the next point, right, is about good customer experience, right? It's not about giving them everything they ask for, right? So it's about understanding the anxiety, providing a little bit of the emotional support, especially all of us are stuck at home, and a lot of the things that our plans are being curtailed, right? Travel plans, everything, right? So understanding the customer would mean that our products and services are being valued, right? By people, right? Okay. So customers do generate the revenue, but we also need to take care of the employees as well, right? That's my point here. If the employees are overworked, then we don't expect to be able for them to force a smile on their face and be very patient with the customer if they are overwhelmed with all these different calls and so on and so forth. Okay, are you okay so far? Yeah. Right. So, so I want to just refocus a little bit on customer experience. When the COVID happened, the first thing, we are stuck at home. Our products are not moving, our services are not moving. We are very concerned about the top line. Okay, so we do a lot of things to fix that, right? But remember, the customer connection is built over a long time, right? It's multiple touch points and expectations that are being confirmed with interactions, and then resulting in loyalty and being with people willing to pay more for the good services, right? Okay. And so we need to make sure that is nurtured, right? Okay, and do not panic and take our eyes off the customer, right? Then our competitors are just ready to come in and take away our lunch, right? Okay. People ask, does Singapore pay for good service? I've heard that so often, right? You look at this report from PwC, actually was done even before COVID time, right? Okay. So this is about the price premium of good customer experience. How much people are willing to pay for a product, like for example, coffee, if you give them good service. The research, which is based on extensive survey, find that it's actually 16%. You can charge me 60% more if you remember my coffee order, right? If you call me by name and the queue is not too long, for example, right? And so you look at it. So basically, good customer experience pays, right? People are willing to pay for it, right? Okay. And if you look at purchasing decision, this was the same survey. They asked them, when you're making a purchasing decision, how important is customer experience? Actually, it is 76%. You look at this one. In Singapore, it's 76%, right? So we do pay for a good service, right? And look at myself, right? I try my best to always travel on SIA wherever I can because I have very good experience so far, right? I have to say, yeah. Once or twice there was some bad experience, but it was covered up by good experience, and so I remain a loyal customer. Once in a while, if the price is too big difference, I may once in a while sway away and try something else, but most of the time I come back to them, right? Okay. Yeah. Okay, so, and the same survey also shows, right? What do they value the most part of their customer experience? And you look at it right on top down there, the biggest bubble down there is efficiency, right? If I make a call, can you resolve the problem for me in one call? Do I have to wait on the call for 15 minutes while you try to solve the problem for me? Or I can do it immediately. Can the customer representative actually make a decision, right? To say, I refund you or not refund you, or communicate clearly what needs to be done, right? And not pass me from one to another and so on, right? So efficiency important, convenience is important, right? Okay, and easy payment is also important. And all this can be fostered very easily in the digital space, right? With digital, a lot of these things can be done quite efficiently and fast, right? And of course, friendly service, maybe not. Knowledgeable service, hopefully, the digital channel can do that a lot. But look at all these things right on top are all what they're looking for, okay? Now, however, the COVID and digital is creating a service gap. So because of COVID, we are pushing everybody online. So two of my banks at least are asking me, can I switch to e-statement again? You know why I don't like e-statement. It's not convenient to me, right? Yeah, and it's only saving costs from the customers, from the organization perspective, right? So we can see that digital can be a channel where we can actually do a lot of things like this, like for example, convenience, you know, if I can self-serve myself, and basically through multiple channel communicate, like through the WhatsApp, like my example, my mortgage experience, right? But however, digital need to be made a little bit more human, especially when the digital channel fails, right? When my chip got cut, it's not something that the digital is prepared to handle on a day-to-day basis, right? So basically, I need to talk to somebody, and the submission of the loan, by the way, is all digital now, you know. Signing is all digital, and then after that, after I submitted everything, I was thinking, what date is supposed to be affected? Nothing. When am I going to start taking money from my account? Also nothing, right? Then basically, I don't know what happened. What did I just sign? Nothing is sent back to me. So basically, digital may not be the ultimate final solution, right? We have to make it more human in a certain way, right? And you look at the studies on the left, right? On the right, sorry. This is basically human versus automated interaction. You look at it. The question is, do I want to interact with a real person? Singapore, actually, 76%, right? Okay, so in the COVID period, this is something we have to watch out for. If not, we are not going to close shop soon. This is the customers are going to come back. We want to keep them. And so the things we do will outlast the COVID. Right? Like they always say, these too shall pass, right? COVID will be over, and then basically we are just going to show our good side or the bad side to the customer, right? So you're going to ask me, where do I start then, right? The first thing to do is to look at your customers' needs. Have they shifted in any way during this period of COVID and so on and so forth, right? And you find that they are a lot, right? All these products have been cut off, cannot go out, a lot of things cannot be done. So customers are also feeling the anxiety, right? And the uncertainty and so on, right? So how can we meet that need? Okay. So pricing and quality, yeah, may be important, but the emotional side of the customer experience become very important then, right? You should also look at your product landscape and do what we call a strategic triage, right? I borrow this word from an article I read, right? You know, the term came from the medical profession. If you have seen some of these doctor show, basically this is if there's a medical emergency, a lot of patients are coming in. The triage actually provide the very critical function of deciding, oh, this guy can wait. This guy emergency have to go and see the doctor. Because of that, it saves many, many lives, right? So as a product manager, we can do this strategic move as well, right? So things that we look at, for example, has some new product and service innovation somehow come out during this period? Have we seen some unmet needs suddenly surfacing, for example? You know, in the education field, right, we have tried e-learning for the longest time. It has failed in Singapore. And the reason is because it's just so easy to travel and just have to have face-to-face, right? So e-learning has failed flat. But because of COVID, now people are more willing to have Zoom classes, right? It's okay if my network drop a little bit, we can understand it. So our customers are actually a lot more forgiving. So same for your customers. Are you going to try some new thing to retain your loyal customers, like CIMB did for me by giving a little bit of interest for the loyal customers? For example, some of the grocery deliveries, right? They are saying that, oh, I need to deliver to so many people now. I try to prioritize to deliver to my loyal customers first, right? So try out things like that, right? That may result in maybe even more services you can provide, more value you can add, and try on an express delivery, right? And so those new things are coming. So look out for them. And during this period, because our customers understand where we come from, and if you're willing to work with them, they're willing to try, and with the hiccups and so on, they are probably very forgiving, right? So this is the time to try new things, right? We always talk about agile, and so on and so forth, and so be willing to try during this period, not just trying to plug the holes on a leaking ship, you know. The other thing that you probably want to look at is to look at your ecosystem. Okay, you probably have vendors, suppliers, supply chain, and so on, and those things has been disrupted. You need to change some of these things, right? Or maybe even bring new partners to meet some of these unmet needs of your customers, right? So that's why my colleague Felicitas will be talking about how platforms were used during this period, how it helped, and how it can be a new venue or new channel or new market that you can explore, right? Using digital platforms and ecosystem, right? I'll leave her to talk about that later on in the next talk, right? Okay. So lastly, I just want to remind ourselves, right? We need to celebrate and reward good services, not just sales, right? If we keep looking at the top line, because that one is suffering now, definitely is bleeding, right? But if we take our eyes off customer service, we may not be able to get back the brand that we've been building all those years, right? So SIA is doing a great job. For example, there are hiccups a little bit here and there. The latest one, my friend just shared with me a video about how the check-in will be like, right? They actually videoed the whole process and so on. It was addressing the concerns of the customers, worry about the pandemic, the germs. So they show the cleaning, they show the safe distancing, and so on and so forth, right? Okay, and so that's good customer experience, right? And we can celebrate some of this by, for example, pinpointing where interactions with our customer. We do experience map. I have some readings below that talks a little bit about that, where you can map out where you actually interact with your customers to give them good experience. And where are those points, right? And you will find some good customers where they have really been helped, right? Okay, those are actually good venues to capture for brand defining experiences, right? For our marketing and purpose as well, right? One thing that is also laid bare to us, right, during this kind of humanity crisis like a COVID-19, you realize the company's success is not on profit and business alone, right? We cannot divorce ourselves from society and say that, oh, we is only providing a good system. We have to try to meet the needs of the people as well. You look at the customers expect us to do that, like the CIMB case. Okay, so this is the best time to demonstrate your values, right? What we say with our mouth, right? Now do with our action by caring for the customers genuinely, right? And for our employees, so that they can give and drive a good experience with them. Okay, so live with empathy and be a force for positive change. right? Okay, that's all I have, right? If you have any question, you can put it onto the Slido. Let me take a look. Is there any question on Slido? Okay, not many questions yet. So maybe I will just hand over to my colleague, Felicitas, right? And she will continue the talk and maybe we will address the questions at the end, right? Over to you, Fel.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. So let me just first share my screen. So Daniel earlier talked about products and the experience, right? The customer service experience that he had. I had some quite terrible ones during this time as well. I'll talk a little bit about it later. So first of all, what I do is I like to take a glimpse into the world of platforms and ecosystems, yeah, and how this has actually affected us in our personal lives as well as in our business. So some numbers to share with you, yeah, about online numbers. And the first one on the left is about online traffic worldwide. This is dated April 19, 2020, yeah. And what we do see is as the comparison is made between the first 2 months of January and February and that in April. So we can see that the traffic has increased by at least 25.4%, right? So a lot of us are using the internet and we know why, right? And interestingly, it says transactions have increased by 42.8%. But of course, you know, it depends on how they define what transactions are. So if you make a purchase, you sell something, you go to your bank, and then you do a transfer or transaction. So all these basically are transactions. Yeah, so it is a large number. So at the bottom, you can see, right, that from the time in January till April, the billions of sessions that have been created, as well as pages, billions, it's 35 billions of pages have been viewed. So that's a lot. So on the right-hand side, we see the impact, right, of the COVID-19 on the e-retail business. And this particular statistic here shows the number of visits in billions again to the different types of e-commerce websites. So I don't have the breakdown, but this is the overall view. As we can see, from January to February, it's about 1 million increase. From February to March is another 500 million of visitors to the sites. Now, I'm quite confident, yeah, if you look at all the other numbers, right, in terms of how people have been accessing and using the online type of capabilities, whether it's video, whether it's chat, etc., that it will show the same sort of trajectory. It means that it's actually on the increase, right? Now, this is the impact, right, we have that COVID has given to us. We are now all of us are using a lot more online services, online, everything that's online, right? So let's take a look, right? How have platforms responded to this COVID-19? So we know that China was the first, right, to be hit by the COVID-19. And some of the things they have done, you know, they're very fast to respond, but as time went on, a lot of the other platforms have also responded, right? So let me just show you what it is. Okay, so one of the things, right, just now Daniel also mentioned, right, is about the community and things like that. So one of the key things, because we are very at home, yeah, we don't have the face-to-face contact anymore, the creation of the community and sharing of information becomes exceedingly important. Because why? We feel isolated, yeah, and there's an emotional connection that we need. So, you know, in China, gaming and social shopping, well, I don't know what you call social shopping, but now I call the shopping not window shopping, but screen shopping. We shop using our screens, yeah? And that's something that's ongoing, but, you know, it has stepped up drastically. Then the other things that we find, right, which also the other platforms also offer, right, live streaming exercises, right? Yeah, you know, you see someone doing, you follow them. Free online concerts, museum tours, yeah, all these things to help people pass their time. Things like chatting, it's gone way above, you know, what you normally have, you know, whether you're using Zoom like us now to communicate and, you know, talk about things. or you just use FaceTime on your Apple iPhone, right? No, for some of the other interesting things that platforms have done, let's say YouTube, right? They use the homepage to direct people if they want to donate things, right? So whether it's masks, gowns, and things like that. Zoom was, yes, a lot of people threw flag at Zoom because your security is poor and etc. But Zoom has responded so fast, right, to fix the security loopholes. And every time you see something, new version, all rolling out. And that's really also to help us so that we are able to connect and continue with our lives. Baidu from China, right, basically developed geospatial layer to show where the clinics in China was. Tencent, real-time track mapping, right, to show where the outbreak areas are, right? So they use the technologies that they have to do all these things. And our own GovTech, right, what do? Trace together smart entry apps. Now that's to help all of us to cope during this time of the COVID. Now, if you look at, I call it policing, right? But it is really, during this time, there will be a lot of unfortunately, we would call it bad people, but there will be things like people who put fake news, right, on the websites, fake news, right? So people like Tencent and Facebook who have got lots of fronting, to the public, social media things, right? They have spent a lot of effort trying to weed out the fake news, whether they use data mining, sentiment mining. So these are the technologies they use to help to do these things, right? Counterfeit products. So if you go and buy something, and they ship to you something that's not real or false, right? People are just trying to take advantage of the situation. So it's fraudsters, right? Fraudsters at play. And then our own carousel, right? So what did they do? Trying to catch the price hikers. So people jack up the prices, right? So at one stage, our face masks were selling at exorbitant prices on our websites, etc. So one of the things carousel, so find the people, catch them, blacklist them, yeah? So we look at social welfare and helping community. So one of the things, right, how do you treat people, right, in the times of COVID? Now, for the platform people, it's very important. You remember in 2011 when Japan was hit with a nuclear disaster and there was tsunamis, right? One of the key things that one of the companies there did was Uniqlo. Uniqlo came up, I think, with an excellent brand because of the help that they rendered to the community. So this is all about corporate social responsibility. So we see a lot of it, right? Relief activities, food deliveries, giving away of masks, manufacturing, like Razer did, manufacturing masks and give to other countries as well, right? And also supporting the local government. Of course, in Singapore, we don't have supporting local government, but in China, each of the provinces have got their own local governments. And how do they support them? Helping them with data, tracking, and things like that, yeah? And more importantly, also, we look at the partners, yeah, and the workers that work with the platforms. So, some of the examples are Grab. What is Grab doing? Trying to onboard their drivers and the delivery people at a faster rate, make it simpler for them to come on board. So we know that jobs are at stake. So this is how they're helping, one of the ways they're helping people. Grab Food and Food Panda, right? Contactless payments, e-payments, even McDonald's, right? It's all contactless nowadays, right? Alibaba and Ant, right, their financial arm, right, eliminate platform charges for Tmall merchants, right? So at least don't ask them to pay any of these charges for a certain period of time, right? They subsidize collection and delivery services, right? And then they provide low interest loans. And Amazon, yeah, also waive charges for storage. So these are all the measures, right, that the platform people are helping during this COVID time. But it's interesting, the bigger the companies are, usually we expect a lot more from them. And how is this possible for the platforms? Number one, they are owned by companies who are, well, if you look at their revenues, they're top 10 on the list somewhere, right? And but platforms have a special place because they are large, they are very distributed, and they already have a lot of people who have signed up with them. So the ability to communicate and spread news is actually very fast, which is why when you talk about fake news, it spreads very fast as well. So they are able to share things faster. They have got more muscle, so to speak, right, to help in such situations. Yeah. So I hope this gives you some idea of how the platforms have helped during this COVID time. Okay. All right. So before I go to the next slide. Okay, so I want to share with you a couple of my own personal reflections and things that happened to me, right, during this particular time, right. You know, so I've got a 1 gigabyte bandwidth signed up with StarHub. So I thought, wow, that's great already, right? I don't have to worry. And then just before we went into circuit breaker, so we were testing it right from our homes, etc. Then I realized that my network wasn't stable. It was intermittent instability, right? So when I called out StarHub, says, I asked him, should I increase my bandwidth? He says, no, it's sufficient, it's sufficient. But the problem persisted. And finally, I found out it's because I had moved my setup to my room and my router was outside. So it gave me a lot of problems. So eventually I said, what do I do? Do I go and buy a mesh or a repeater for the signals, etc.? I said, it's too complex. So the only way, I thought, let's go and get a very long wire. So I bought an 18-meter wire. That was the longest they had to connect from my router into my, from the setup box into my router, right? So I can at least move a little bit. Then after a while, right, I tried it. I said, wow, it's terribly messy all over the place. So I decided eventually use the connection, the long wire, bring the router to my room, and then set it up. So it works fine now. Yeah. So the thing is, this for a company, right? Accessibility and connectivity are key factors that they must consider, right? Yes, we know we may be well connected, but in times when you have emergencies like COVID, what can we do, right? So we need to prepare. You need to have uninterrupted access. And if things don't work, you need to figure out how you're going to pivot in order to keep your business running. Then the second thing is about behavioral changes, right? This thing about working from home, right? I'm not used to having a headset, camera, you know, microphones, doing teaching of classes, but that's what we have done so far. And it took getting used to, and sometimes it's get very complicated depending on how many screens you have, you know, what's running on your desktop, etc. So there are a lot of things that you need to take care of. Yeah, but you know, after a while you realize, you get used to it. Yeah, you work out how you should be doing things, right? And you carry on. So you know, one of the behavioral changes we've had to expect is students when they do online learning, right? What they love to do, they love to blank out their screens. Somehow they don't want to see you, but they see you, but they don't want you to see them. So every time when class starts, they say, okay, everybody, good morning, please show face. That's very important, show face, right? And for us, because we can't see them, trying to interact with them is actually very difficult, right? You don't even know what the response is, whether they're bored to death or, you know, they're doing something else, yeah? But, you know, that's only one aspect of it. So you can pick on students, you know, and they'll have to show their face. But more importantly, I think when we come to assessment exams, so I guess most of you have already read in the news somewhere, right, about the cases where we have offline exams and you know what happened, right, some of the students. I think students are also not used to this, and depending on where they come from, sometimes they think it's acceptable to do such things. Yeah? So behavioral issues always take time to adjust, right? So as a company, right, you need to prepare again, right? And you need to ramp up because it does take time for your business and the people and your customers to adjust to new changes. So you have to also have a strategy for your platforms. No matter what you do as a player in the platform environment, you need to have a strategy. Thirdly, right, to build a long-term relationship. So this is where I had a very bad experience. So I had two things. I booked a trip to Korea. When the CB was announced, you know, my friend and I asked the company, can we cancel and get a refund? He says, no, you can't get a refund, but you can postpone it till next year. So I said, what if I want to cancel? Then you have to pay a penalty, the standard one, $500. So after doing the calculations, I said, never mind, okay, let's hang on and see, maybe by next year things get better. Then subsequently, we sent a couple of emails and there was no more response. So that was my worry. They are not terribly big agency. Are they still around? Maybe they are not. So $1,500, poof, down the drain already. But the second one, my TV had well, bid me farewell during this time after 10 years of faithful service, I would say. Yeah, it was a Samsung. So I wanted to buy a new TV, and I went, there were a lot of 6/6 sales, right? Yeah, 6/6 of June of sales. So I went to one of the local marketplaces and I looked at the TVs. I was quite happy with it. And I was going to place my credit card and make payment. Lo and behold, over a 4-day period, I tried about 6 times using 3 different credit cards, and it kept rejecting me. I called the bank. Is there something wrong with my card? He said, no, your card's fine on our end. It is the merchant who's rejecting you. I said, okay, so how do I get hold of the merchant? I couldn't find a contact number. The email, if I say I email by then, the sales is over already. How do I get to it? So then I wondered, how come, right? How come this particular merchant, don't they have any data analytics that shows anomalies? Couldn't they have done something and at least, you know, look at it and called me back? I mean, I'm a serious buyer, you know, it's not that I'm play, you know, right? So I'm a serious buyer, but they didn't have anything like this. So I swore I will never go back to that particular marketplace to buy anything. So I thought, let's do without the TV, but 10 days later, I couldn't take it anymore. TV was my connection to the outside world, yeah. And so what happened was that I looked at Best Denki, right? And then he says, next day delivery. I said, wow, okay, let's try that. So I bought my TV and they kept their promise. Next day, they delivered my TV, set it up for me, and it's running and working already. I'm henceforth, right, they've got my loyalty. I will always buy from Best Denki. Not the cheapest, yeah, but at least you can be assured of a good customer service. And last one is about trusted information. I think, you know, also relating to the point of exams and students, right? We need to be upfront and we need to be honest as well. You know, in this situation where we are using online stuff, there are many things that can happen. So, you know, we need to be able to trust our students as well, right? So many times we are told, trust your student. Yeah, so, you know, I take it with a pinch of salt because I still do as many things as I can to make sure the student doesn't play some games with me. Yeah, so we need to, as companies, we need to be upfront. If you can do something, do it. If you can't do it, you have to explain why you can't do it. Okay, so now we're going to take a break and we are going to do a poll. So the question basically is what have you done the most, right, during this circuit breaker? So there's so many things, like you chatting, you posting, and then, you know, viewing people's posts, whether you're watching YouTube or, you know, something else, Netflix, Disney, etc., right? Video conferencing, buying stuff online, doing Google searches all the time, yeah, which is what I do a lot of now. Ordering food, right, from Grab and Food Panda. So you can choose more than one, right? I'm quite sure we do a couple of things all at one go in any case. So it gives me maybe another minute before we close the polls. Okay, so I'm going to ask Daniel to show the poll results. Okay, so the results are out. So let's have a look at what it says. The highest scoring is video conferencing via Zoom, MS Teams, and WebEx. Yeah, so this looks like what we are doing most of the time when we're at home, right? We're working. So we expect that this is very high. Chatting on WhatsApp, Telegram, and any of other chat facilities. Watching a lot of TV, YouTube, right? Posting and viewing Facebooks, online shopping, Google searching, ordering food from Grab. And the smallest, the lowest level one is watching TV, media call channels, and cable TV. I guess that's because they don't really have very fantastic programs on. Maybe you just watch news and that's about it. So we can actually see from this, right? Thanks, Daniel. What we can see from this is we access a lot of stuff that's online. Just let me share my screen again. Yeah, we share a lot of things that are online. And why are we able to do it? So for many of us, we don't really think about it. But you know, if you pause and look at it, right, we always think of internet, we think about mobile, we think about smartphones, we think about YouTube, Amazon, we think about all these things. But what supports all this is really your digital platforms that support all these activities. Yeah. So if we think about it further, digital platforms are a part of our everyday life in business. Sometimes you're not conscious, right? We see what's on the front, we look at the channels, but we forget that behind all these things is what makes all this tick. Okay, so digital platforms in themselves don't survive in isolation, right? Basically, they need to survive in a context. So digital platforms, what do we have? We take, for example, a simple case of a marketplace. You have the buyers, you have the sellers, right? They come together, they have a transaction, yeah, and then they manage to find each other on the platform. Of course, the digital platforms have got tools that help them, people find each other, do a matching, etc., right? They find each other. But the key point is that the digital platforms need the buyers and the sellers. They need people who are going to produce things for them, right? So there are different elements, right, in the marketplace that will happen. So this is what we call the context. And the context is primarily an ecosystem. Ecosystems have existed from the longest time. Any business will have its own ecosystem, right? Your suppliers, your partners, and stuff like that. But what is different is that in a digital platform, your ecosystems will look a little bit different, yeah? So I'm going to run to the next slide now. So McKinsey did lots of, McKinsey is the consulting research arm, right? Business. So they have done a lot of research and a lot of predictions as well. So this particular chart basically tells us, right, in the future, right, in 2025, right, what's going to happen. So according to McKinsey, it says that there are new ecosystems that are going to emerge in the place of traditional industries. And the total revenue is about $60 trillion in revenue. And that comprises 30% of the corporate global revenue. So it's a huge amount of money. So how we look at it, right, is divided into the B2B versus the B2C part of it, right? And this is how they basically roughly estimated how the breakdown is going to be in the different ecosystems that will come up. Now, this is not the whole picture, but these are the primary, the big ones, yeah, that we will see. So shortly, I'm going to show you some examples, right? So what is the ecosystem and why is it so special, right? So ecosystems are basically connected services, right, that are used to fulfill the customer's needs in an integrated way. So give them the good experience. Again, you know what Daniel said, the customer experience is very important. Yep. Now, in an ecosystem, there are partnerships, right? And we know that from our normal businesses that we conduct, right? But what's so special in ecosystem that is going to be digital for the digital platform? What is different is this, right? So on the left, we see the chart, right? This is what we call the success of ecosystems. And how they measure it is by some financial numbers, total users and growth. On this part here, you see the different industries, right? Whether it's health, manufacturing. Now, for what is considered as a successful ecosystem, these numbers at the bottom basically show you the number of partners that they have and they use. Okay, so if you look at this, 83% of the digital ecosystems have partners in 3 or more industries. 53% more than 5 industries. An average ecosystem has 27 partners. The successful ones have 40. Amazon, for its e-retail business, has got 67 partners. So interesting, right? Partners. So in order for a partner to be in an ecosystem, obviously, first thing, he must have some value that he can bring to the table for the people in the ecosystem, so that he also can benefit from the ecosystem. So this is one dimension, right? The number of partners across the industries. There's another dimension about the countries that participate. How many countries participate in terms of the ecosystem? So it's spread across in the world. So interestingly, when I bought my TV, I went to check out, right, who manufactures Samsung now? Is it Samsung? Obviously, a part of it is Samsung. But no, it came from Mexico, Brazil, China, Vietnam, and then Korea. So, you know, everybody has a part to play. And why is this so? Because each of the partnerships will bring something specific to the table. Yeah, as on your own, you don't have all the capabilities. So think about making a robotic vacuum cleaner, the one that rolls on the floor, right? You need an electronics manufacturer. You will also need someone who does sensors and cameras. You need somebody with the AI type of software. If you know, maybe you have got IoT that connects your entire house together, you need somebody who's able to do that as well. So, you know, it's a spectrum, right, of all the different capabilities. Okay, so let's go through some examples, right? You know, Ping An is a Chinese insurance company, but Ping An has become, it's a very, very successful one. And over the years, right, it now plays in what we call 5 different ecosystems. Yeah, health ecosystem is one, the financial ecosystems is another. They also play in automobiles, the auto ecosystem. They also play in smart homes ecosystems, right? So you realize that over time, right, they spread their wings very wide, and they are basically in a lot of different areas. So take, for example, right, let's say in, okay, so let's say take, for example, right, in the health ecosystem, insurance is basically their core strength, right? Financials also is part of their core strengths. But who else have they in their ecosystem right now? You've got the doctors, the hospitals. I think they've enlisted at least about 300,000 doctors in China. They've got e-commerce inside pharmacies as well. Yeah, physiotherapists, health checkups, fitness, and interesting, beauty care, right? So I suppose you would think, right, people who are not well also want to look good, feel better about themselves. So they have branched and spread themselves all over the place right now, right? This is an interesting one about the health ecosystems. There are different health ecosystems which use different setups and different things inside there. Okay, Tolino came about because of Amazon Kindle, right? And they saw what was happening in the US. So for the Europeans, they said, we better do something. They tried their own e-readers and they failed miserably. So they banded together, right, all the German book retailers. And then they also joined forces with Deutsche Telekom to help them to build the e-reader. So they were actually quite successful, right? Down the road, right, sometime in 2015, they were very competitive, right, with Amazon Kindle. What happened later is that they sold off, right? The Deutsche Telekom sold off his shares to Rakuten Kobo. But the point of this is, yeah, in an ecosystem, you don't just have complementers, you also have your competitors. And in this case, the German book retailers were all competitors and they came together. And this is where we have the term co-opetition, right? Yeah, cooperation and competition. And then a terminology where you call now is called frenemies, friends and enemies at the same time. Oh, we come to DBS, right? Electricity. Yeah, and then on top of it, they've got the POSB Smart Buddy for children, right? It's a smart watch with an app. basically to help them track expenses, what they buy and things like that. So DBS has actually extended its arm into different areas. So they are now a little bit like Expedia.com, right? Or some travel agents, a property like, they tie up with the property agents, yeah, and then go into property. Travel is like Expedia.com, book flight, book your hotel, buying cars, right? SG Karma, they tie up with all these people. And then electricity, you can see what's the best deal, etc. on it. So why are they doing this? One is, at the back end is always the core financial parts that they are looking at. They are trying to understand their customers better. How do customers actually spend money? And by doing this, and the current customers use it, basically they collect a lot of data about their customers. And the data, they can use it to develop new products. Okay. Tradelens is more a B2B type of platform, yeah, and it's a blockchain enabled for supply chain container logistics, right? So it's in a bit more closed environment, right? You have your 3PLs, your shippers, freight forwarders, your operators, your authorities, your ports. And the beauty of this platform is this. We know that when we do export, import, moving things around, there's a lot of paperwork involved. Paperwork, well, it takes a lot of time and it's very costly to manage. So this platform basically does away with a lot of the paperwork, and it makes the connection seamless. And because they're using blockchain, it is more what we call authentic and real, right? Standard Chartered this year in March, the big thing about them joining the Tradelens platform, because Standard Chartered said, I want somewhere where I can verify the shipments and the invoices. I want something that is safe and sure, yeah, and that's how they got in there. Schneider Electric Exchange is in another industry, electricity industry, right? Management of electricity. So they have what we call an open business platform. So this is a community, but in the community, there are experts. If you need to solve problems, etc., you can come here and look for your answers. They have services that are being sold as well. So who are the people in here? Your energy people, your home construction experts, your startups, right, who want to develop apps and all that, and then your innovators. So it's very wide, yeah. So other things, right, which are more familiar with, the Shopify, helping customers to set up their shop fronts and to sell their merchandise, right? So they provide you a set of tools. This across other industries. Teachable is another sort of platform that help people like us, if you want to go into business at any point in time, right, to build cost materials and to sell and market them, right? Amazon Partner Network is another type of sort of platform, yeah, whereby all people who have implemented Amazon, right, as the supplier or the provider, they can sign up with Amazon and help to understand the Amazon web services, etc., better, improve their skills. And for people like companies who want to find people, to help them to do implementation, they come here and they look for them. Yeah, so it's a match that's being done. Okay, so just to summarize, what are the key characteristics, right? So companies can participate in more than one ecosystem, right? And you have cross-domain. That means you don't have to be in the same industry. You can jump into someone else's industry if you think that there is a value proposition that you can offer. So in every ecosystem, you have many entities inside there. Every partner will bring a value, and then he can get some value as well, right? So if he participates, he can also leverage off other people. But remember, at the end of this, right, it's all about the customer, right? And it's about customer personalization. It's a thing about health ecosystem. How do we help that particular customer, the person who requires all these things, in a seamless way, in an integrated way? Yeah. So if we understand that, we can have new products and services that can focus on the customer. So what are the benefits, right? So number one, of course, lowers acquisition cost, because if you think about it, right, you join an ecosystem which has already a big base. Whether it's because you have a marketplace there, a lot of people who are on the marketplace, so your acquisition of customers is going to be low, right? Customer relationships and retention. So this is where it becomes your goodwill, your management of your customers, right? They will stay with you, right, for a longer time. Once you're happy with something, right, it's not likely you're going to run around, right? Rich data to understand consumer, right? So you have got a pool of data. As more people come together, they bring more data with them, right? And then there's monetization opportunities. How do we milk this data? The new ways of getting revenue. Mass personalization, yeah? Not just one, but many of the people or customers that you have. How do we do mass personalizations? So Starbucks is an excellent example. You know, they use the AI. They collected a lot of data through their reward systems. They use AI, right? And they use AI basically to give you a recommendation of your coffee, give you personal sort of promotions. It's fantastic, right? Reduce friction. So the Tradelens, right? A lot of documentation slows things down. So how do we reduce the friction? Then it's a decrease in your transaction cost. So it makes it cheaper to do business. It's really a gateway also for your customer. You know, think of a super app like a WeChat, like Grab, right? You have one entry point and everything else is inside that particular app. So ecosystem is of course a lot bigger, right? Okay, some food for thought, right? So digital platforms are definitely here already, right? And the traditional ecosystems are morphing. So the question is, will you be a part of this morphing process? Will you land somewhere in a new ecosystem? So as a business, right, what are you going to do about it? Okay, so with that, I've concluded. Daniel?
Okay, yep. So we have some questions on the Slido, right? So maybe we can address them. Okay, yeah. So there's one question that's top on the list. They say, let me just share that. Maybe easier for us to see, right? Oh, did I share the wrong one? Hang on. Do y'all see the Slido?
Yes.
Okay. So post-COVID-19, will be the new norm, normal? How should product managers re-engage with customers to co-create the new value? Okay, so so we first of all have to know what has shifted, right? So basically we have to go back to the customers, right? So if you are doing consumer business, if you are doing B2B, how to do that? Basically go and talk to them, right? Talk to your customers, serving specialists who are serving them, okay? As well as those that are, for example, talking to your customers like the salespeople, and you yourself go and talk to the customer. What is their problems? How are they? And so on. I tell you, a lot of them, you call them, they appreciate it so much. So we have to find what has shifted, and then what would be the new way to get around to them, right? Okay. So if you find that there's an issue, you can help a problem, then there's a way to re-engage with them. Yeah. Yes. Any of my team guys want to add to that? Now I go to the next question. What would be the strategies to solicit customers' attention and buy in now with more availability of online competition, right? So everybody is online now. So from this talk, one thing that we are trying to tell you to differentiate yourself is through better customer service. Because a lot of them are just trying to make a quick buck, right? Just imagine I got good experience buying a box of masks from this vendor. I will recommend them to my friends who are looking for masks. And in this time as this, the good word spreads like fire, just as the bad word spread like fire. So that's why we say customer service is the way to try to differentiate ourselves, because there are so many competition going there. Everybody is going after the same things. So how do you differentiate ourselves, right? I can tell you that I got a lot of messages from my friends who tell me, this one horrible, that one horrible, this one good, that one good. And basically they become our ambassadors and our mouthpiece, right? So if we have done something wrong and the social media, the ink is there, right? The anger of the customer, our social media class will probably tell you, go and how to address some of them, bring them offline and talk to them and so on and so forth, right? So reconnect with them, understand what is their issue, what is their concern, their mindset, right? Because their mindset may have shifted, right? So last time I'm looking for the cheapest one, now I'm not. I'm looking for, like what Fel say, the one where the delivery is sure. right? Where I want to get masks that are of good quality, not just cheapest, right? Reputable, recommended by friends versus recommended through advertisement and so on and so forth. So if the customer feels as though you are there trying to connect just because you want to sell something, they will not trust you. But you find that you are concerned about them, they will start to trust you. And if you reward that loyalty with better service, that is when they become your brand ambassador, right? Yeah, so there is some ways to do that. Yes. The crisis impacts the whole economy and so present new opportunities and customers need. How can a product manager revalidate their product USP? Right, so part of the biggest shift for us product managers is the market shift also, right? So if you are building a product for peacetime, that is going to be lower priority, right? So that's why I suggest doing that strategic triage and decide what are the ones you should move forward, what are the projects that should be pushed forward, redirect the resources to that, focus. Definitely very clear winners will be all the digital channels, good customer service one, guarantee deliveries, quality of products, and so on and so forth, right? So those will be the ones that we can definitely know those products will be the key USPs and so on. Yeah. Fel, you want to take some questions where I look at the chat? There are some chats coming up.
Daniel, can you roll it up? I think there's one on the last one. Can you roll it up a bit?
Competitor to competitor to Facebook.
Is it on the Slido or on the chat? Oh.
Just look at the Slido. Our guys will transfer the thing back to the chat lah.
Okay, so your Slido is can you roll the Slido down a little bit?
No, that's the lowest already.
Okay, the last one is about any thoughts on key distinctions, is it? What's that particular question?
Mine was this question about getting users onto a platform, especially when users are already so used to the likes of Facebook. Do you see the question there?
No.
Oh.
Don't see that. I think it seems to be frozen.
My screen is frozen?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me stop share and go in again. Yep. You see it?
Okay, so when you say about moving users from Facebook to your platform, I suppose your platform must be related to something like Facebook. Yeah. Well, if you could have some tie-up and partnerships, right, with Facebook itself, you can ride on them as well, ride on the user base that they have. I think if you want to directly compete head-on with Facebook, it's going to be tough unless the offering that you have, right, on your platform is so unique that it attracts people to your platform. So there are many ways how we can deal with this. I know it's the chicken and egg type of problem, but competition platform is very established already. So it's either you try to partner him, don't be your enemy, but be your friend, yeah, partner him, or else, what is your unique proposition of your platform? What value are you going to offer to the people so that you can tempt them over to your side?
Okay, there's a question about individual response of a customer. and a company versus to that of environment. Yeah, this question here. Yeah, I think this one came from Nirav, right? So I'm not an expert on how to manage crises, but basically for a product crisis for a company versus, let's say, one product, one company, or now the whole economy, one thing is that everybody knows what's happening, right? So if it's an individual company, a product, you need to educate your people, educate your customer, why this happened and so on. The good thing about things like COVID is everybody know why this is happening, why there is a lockdown, why travel has to be cancelled. And so the explanation actually is a little bit easier. But at the same time, the response become tough because everybody will be responding quite similarly. People is comparing your response versus, let's say, Amazon's response versus RateMark's response and so on. Just like just now, the insurance case, right? I compare my friend who managed to get a full refund very quickly versus my one who didn't get a full refund until after they quote the rule and so on and so forth. So they are comparing us, right? And in the digital space, such comparison happen very quickly, right? So the good and bad will very quickly come out. So very important to support our customer specialists who are helping to do all this, make sure their bandwidth are okay, make sure they know all the standard answers and so on. And for SIA to do the things that we quote them as doing, they probably train a lot of them very well. I just wonder, this is just a wonder, please don't quote me, whether they ask any of the air stewardess who are now not flying to come and man the desk. And they are trained like that, right? And the lady who speak to us, they are so confident and know exactly what they can or cannot do and very sympathetic. Yeah, and so those things matters, right? During this period, right? Okay. Fel, feel free to take one of the platform questions so you get to it.
All right, there's one that's let me see. It says all ecosystem players will be struggling. Missed that one. Okay, yeah, okay. So all ecosystem players will be struggling to survive, right? And will become more inward focused. What impact do you see in the ecosystem dynamics? Okay, so you know, well, it's true that companies are in a bit of tight bind at this point in time, but all of them will basically be looking for opportunities, right? How can they recover opportunities? And opportunities are not within the company. Opportunities are on the outside. So if you constantly just look at what's happening in your organization itself, you're not going to be able to break out of the situation that we are in. We have to cast our net wider on the externals, right? And this is how I see it, because of the way the ecosystem dynamics are going to change, right? Cross industries and stuff, the opportunities are opening up even more, right? Yeah, it may take a bit of while because we're now in a COVID situation and businesses are not doing too well, but it's a matter of time when things pick up, right? And new opportunities arise. So you need somebody in the organization to look outside. You cannot everybody be focusing inside. What can you focus on inside Israel? Yeah, you want to cut some costs, and stuff like this, streamline your process. But that's not where the opportunities are. The opportunities are external.
Right, good. Yeah, so maybe I take this question about, will product management role evolve to something different given the COVID experience, right? One thing a lot of us product managers realize, right, we are put on the hot seat. A lot of us we have plans, we execute the plans. If there's customer complaint, we look after the customer, try to do service recovery and so on. So given the kind of COVID problem, you probably, COVID kind of problem, right? You see our ministers addressing the nation every day. So as product managers, we have to be very, very agile, right? Communications within the team itself has to be very clear, what engineering, what customer need to do, and so on and so forth. Service delivery, if there's problem, operation, digital platform, all this has to be synced up very carefully together. And we are on crisis mode almost every day, right? So when certain thing happen, we have to react like that. When now we are going into phase 2, and then we have to do this, right? So product managers, we have to start taking out all the excess, mark on our spaces where customers can see and so on. So we have to respond very quickly and agilely, right? very interesting I see is that how company come together like that. Because I see some of these people working from home, my wife also, you see the teams actually coming together, the middle managers, right? People like me and you, ourselves, right? Who are product managers actually take on and proactively are able to do a lot of things, right? Because they know the ground, the customer, and be able to tell the management and very quickly get decision and bring the team together to work on it, right? So the response almost on a crisis mode is what we are living day to day now, right? And so we still have to plan some long-term stuff, right? Delay some of these other initiatives and push some of the initiatives up. That's why that strategy triage is very important. Okay, yeah. Any other questions we want to address, Fel? If not, we can wrap up.
Yeah, so I think we've got quite a good sampling of questions. So we'll follow up with the rest that perhaps that we haven't managed to answer today. So I'd like to thank you all, and thank you for your time to take out from your work that you're doing to come and listen to this. I hope that it has been useful. And if you need more information, no problem, just drop us a note.
All right, thank you everybody. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, we'll see you soon in our webinar. Bye.